So day two. Day two, 2000, what difference does it make? It's another day in the rat race and the matrix and the 3D, non-5D reality where I'm watching the world around me. Hello, Evan. Just completely collapse, and it doesn't frighten me as much as it saddens me to watch people going through their own process of, you're implicated in your own murder, for God's sakes. People don't realize that they're really taking themselves down, or they don't care, or whatever it is. It's hard for whatever reason that people are on public display, or even in small public displays to their family, whatever level of, being displayed it is. It's very hard to watch that and know that people are exposed, they're raw, they're naked, they're afraid, whether they look like they're afraid or not, or whether they say they are or not. There's a lot of fear. The 1212 portal was a very big one. And I'm only really coming to fully understand more and more just how significant that portal was. It's only been a couple of days. But the last couple of days have been fraught with a lot of energy shifts, quick, rapid, just all over the place from one extreme to another. Energy shifts for me personally, and getting, some downloads of information about what that's looking like for other people that are relevant to me, and those that are irrelevant, no longer relevant, that used to be relevant, and also seeing the 3D reality of news and the structure of the matrix is falling down, and there's a lot of people that are desperately still trying to cling onto the matrix. It's something that puzzles me, amuses me from time to time when it's less lethal. However, mostly it breaks my heart, because I know that as light being and starseed as I am or want to be, I'm still in a human avatar. I'm still running a human being with the programming of human emotion. And though it's nice to be able to, step out of that and objectively look at things, if I only did that, I would be one cold, ruthless motherfucker, would I not be? I mean, that would be a pretty crazy place to be. That wouldn't be very sensitive, sensual, or sentient, passionate, etc. In anything but rage or dispassion, which that's kind of a crazy cold place to be, and we've seen that demonstrated on the planet of what it is to be completely devoid of emotion. So I don't want to stand in the casual observer position for very long. I also don't want to stand in the oh my God, the emotion, because there's a lot of very dense emotion that's out there, and it can be mistaken for grief, etc. Needs to get to the grief, but until we get past that rage point, that stand up in the belly of the beast kind of thing, we can't really get to the healing waters and the emotion of it. We're standing in what, rage is not exactly an emotion. I'm sure by psychology standards it is. However, it's an expression of a deeper feeling inside of, I've been screwed, I've been abandoned, I've been harmed, I've been hurt, and I don't feel strong enough in my sovereignty to be able to do anything except rage against how could this happen. And it's beyond, right now, it's beyond just, a simple ego slap. It's more than just somebody getting their ego bruised. These are brutal takedowns of egos that, that's very big, it's large, and it's been in charge of places where that has no application anymore. We're no longer there. We passed the 1212, and that's no longer relevant. And I've felt a lot of those shifts, and what that says to me is you really need to be better about regulating your own energy, stabilizing, and being grounded through that, so that you're not pulled through the knothole of every zing and energy that swings by and whatever. Because as an empath, a light worker, starseed, an intuitive of some kind, we can sometimes really get taken by hostage means of, something that's familiar to us or someone that feels very connected to us. The telepathic connections right now are very strong, and they're very real, and they're not going to slow down. They're not going to get softer, gentler, kinder, or less necessarily, unless we know how to, put up that barrier of, no, I'm not into, telepathic messaging with someone that if I can't talk to you in 3D, I don't want to talk to you in 5D. If it's a safety factor. If it's a safety factor in a 3D that we can't talk because you're a harmful individual, then we're not doing that in any other D. Doesn't matter how elevated you could be. You can't get much above, trying to do telepathic with me. If you were, we would be speaking out here in 3D and our 5D would be matching, So people are trying to find their way with karmic balancing in some very unholy ways. They're trying to get out of paying their debt. They're trying to get out of, paying their dues. Like, no, you sat down at the bar and you ordered 1,200 drinks, you're going to pay for 1,200 drinks. And to come by and ask somebody else, will you help me pay for this? And start a GoFundMe energetically of, no, that's why we're here, is that every single person as their own sovereign nation, we have to stand up in our energy and be able to take care of our own messes, no matter what they are. Me included. I don't stand anywhere in some sanctimony like that. I don't have messes I've ever created or have to pay my debt. I have to pay my debt everywhere I go, just like everybody else. It's just, when we're slow to understand that, and then we get portals that come and open up, hi, we're here some more. The emperor's new clothes, you're naked, and you look afraid. Do you want to pay your tab now? No, I want her to do it, or I want him to do it, or I want to, be over here manipulating 3D in some way, like that's going to change 5D. It does not. It just angers 5D. Those energies that hover close enough. Now, the loving frequency is pure frequency. There's no, other frequency except pure love. We're not quite there yet. We're a long ways from it. And so when you're talking about energies that are associated with Earth and they're not in their bodies, they can have emotional input, or they can have energy that is, not purely clean. And when we're clinging to that stuff and trying to throw it around or ask it, ancestors that weren't healed before they left and they still aren't, just because someone dies in their body doesn't mean they automatically upgraded to angelic status. Still have to do the work. We have to pay our bill whether we're wearing skin or not. And so if we have, some unhealed people's faces in 5D or whatever D of, non-3D that we're looking to, if we have unhealed sources there that aren't really coming in from a more divine spot than we are, we're just in that lateral exchange and suffering with them, and no one's healing. And the whole dinosaur thing, it's going extinct. There's a mass extinction of dinosaur mentality. It's going out, We don't have technology from 1970 that's usable anymore. We just don't. You don't use a flip phone. Well, I shouldn't say that. There are fold phones, I think. But we don't use Morse code. It's not the most up-to-date up to speed technology that we can be using. And that's part of what 747, that's part of what has really been quite fascinating for me to understand in this process of growing and evolving as a spiritual being, is that energy is a trackable scientific process. Energy itself is vibration, frequency. What we know of it, we do understand, and we know. My hair's all over the place. And yet there's so much more of that we do not know, that we can't account for, that we haven't discovered yet. But it doesn't mean that it isn't existing and that it isn't real. It means that we haven't unraveled that part of it yet. We haven't come to understand that piece, those parts, and those parts of the puzzle. We haven't figured that out yet to get a more complete view. However, those people that can look at the box ahead of time and say, well, the overall picture is going to look like this eventually, we get kind of an understanding that, okay, whether I understand how that little piece is going to fit into this 5 million piece puzzle or 8 billion piece puzzle, doesn't matter, because I can see the overall picture is this. Now, that ability comes more easily to some people that are able to detach from their emotions. Detaching so far that we just only ever observed, from up there somewhere, is not terribly applicable to walking in the matrix, because it's not compatible. We can't be so love and light. At least I can't. I got to be more real about what I'm about and understand that I'm still human. and I'm operating my avatar, in 3D, no matter how 5D I have my consciousness or my higher thoughts, etc., I still have to operate and move in a world that's very much predominantly still rooted and hanging on tight to some very old paradigms and old ideas. Despite the fact that the shift happened quite some time ago, we've been moving into newer energy. Every time we go through one of those portals, we're going to have those upgrades. We're going to have those forced updates, on our device. And it's not like we don't all have a device. Our body is our device, and our emotions are the way that we express our energy and express our understanding of our energy. And if we're hostile, mean, angry, and out there, it means that we're not really understanding our own energy very well. We're not understanding how to regulate what would be normal, appropriate reaction to something, to feel angry about something. That's not the issue. It's when it goes well over into the explosive, or we go into trying to manipulate. Anytime that anywhere it gets out of balance, that's about us and our device, and we're not understanding how to balance our own device, then we're missing those understandings of the updates. The updates are happening regardless. She had a forced update on 12/12. That's just the way that was. And, people that go, yeah, whatever, that's just horseshit, blah, blah, blah. Okay, well, I'm not talking to you. I'm not talking to you. Your device was updated, because look around. We can see that things are being torn down. The apocalypse, the end times, whatever people want to catalog it as. I personally don't subscribe to the idea that we're on our way to, the earth is blowing up. Exactly. I think it's at the point where it certainly could. Man could blow itself up. Humankind, we could certainly destroy the entire earth or come dangerously close. And, those of us that don't have a bunker set aside, we won't make it those extra 2 months to, come out and die anyway, because, it's got to be an all or nothing, that the earth has to survive as a one unit, or it just goes away entirely, where it's not usable or serviceable for anyone, not even those that would be in their bunkers for 6 months or a year, whatever. How do you think that would all regenerate again? We do rely on the intricacies of understanding the bigger picture of that puzzle. You can't just lop off the second half of the puzzle and say, well, that's no longer relevant. That's not what the star seeds and light workers or visionaries, prophets, whatever would say about it, in my humble opinion, is that we can't just exclude, a part of the puzzle. The earth is what she is, and she has to work as an entire organism, where we cannot just wipe out one whole huge chunk. It's like taking out wind and saying, okay, we'll have the other forces of nature, we'll have the other elements in there instead. Just we won't have wind anymore, or we won't have water, or we'll find a way to adapt without, air. No, because that's not how this system works. That would take this system too far out of balance, that it would not be serviceable. It just wouldn't work. You can't make the earth work in any other fashion other than the way that she operationally, when man, woman, humankind put their grungy little foot on her surface, however it happened, whether from the garden, whether plopped down, from God, whether evolved out of the sludge, whatever your thought is, those first steps here, the earth was already whole, pure, clean, and ready, in balance, totally in balance, not imbalanced. She was totally balanced and stable, and was going through her cycles to reach those purge points and the necessary, have growth and death, rebirth, etc. She already knows how to do that, and humans been monkeying around with that for a minute. We've been monkeying around and causing some problems, and as we're upgrading in that energy, every time we hit a portal that people don't understand, but they can see, it's causing more fear. At 1313, it's causing more fear in people, where they're thinking, oh no, this is the end time, and then they start making some janky decisions about, well, I don't have anything left anyway, I might as well just go balls deep with, doing some terrible shit, or they retreat into their shell and say, I have nothing I can offer. And every single human being has something they can offer. We are offering. Every day that we open our mouths and breathe, we are offering something. It's what are we offering? How valuable is it? How serviceable is it? And is it something that's actually bringing us closer to understanding ourselves and our energy as we're moving through these changes in our earth experience, whatever we believe, off planet or in other lifetimes? How about this one? What am I offering? What am I bringing? And what am I taking? And we have people that aren't really interested in doing that inventory. That's dinosaur mentality. We don't have time for that anymore, and they're going to buck the hardest And they're going to very much dislike, people like me saying, you're going to go through that update. We all do. None of us have any say in this. You don't get a say in whether you live or die. You will die someday. So we already submit to the understanding that you will drop dead someday. That's just going to happen. Period. So we do understand that we don't have control of that unless we take control of that. However, those are your options, are to be breathing or not breathing. Whether you take control of the ending of it or not, it's still the only option you have. Is you can either be here breathing or you can not be here breathing, and you can take control or not. But that's where it is. And that power, that being, that entity, that God, that whatever we subscribe to or don't subscribe to, atheistic or not, agnostic or not, whatever we subscribe to, we answer to a higher cause than us. And boy, until we can really get okay with that and get very grounded and okay with understanding that ultimately, dude, I'm not in charge. And if I can back that all the way out to the point of I'm not in charge of anything, nothing, except my own energy and how I'm going to respond to what other people are doing, other situations that are created around me, and how do I influence that to make sure that I'm getting the most out of this experience that I need to be serviceable to Earth, to myself, and to the higher cause. And energy right now that, is wearing bodies that energy just doesn't care. It's not interested in that. It doesn't care. It just wants to feast and have a, big giant orgy before it goes. That's truly to be avoided and all that. However, it's also to be expected. That's the juvenile, emotionally immature folks. That's neophyte energy. That's very, very emotionally immature and energetically not very developed. And human beings are called to reach into your consciousness, reach into your spirit, reach into your soul, and do something more with that than to look out through those little eyeballs and see that this isn't all there is. Is it really? Is that really all you see? Is that what you believe? Is that that's all you see? That's all there is? As a society, we're just not really used to that. Whatever reason is on the books for many people about how and why that came to be and all of that, I don't care. I don't know, because we all have our story. We all have our history. The bottom line is, though, is that it's time for human eyeballs to wake up, look out and see the real reality. It's falling apart. It's falling apart for a reason. Let's go with that. That, all right, if it's falling apart, let it go. There's a reason that it has to go. And how can I evolve and adapt out of that? Or do I just lie down and die and give up and just go with whatever somebody else's tide is? I didn't say that. I did not say that. I didn't say that in this submission process we submit to humans. Screw submitting to humans. No. Submit to the process is in divine hands. It's in divinity's timing and divinity's flow, not mine. It's my job to know when to battle out here, what to battle, and when to let, 98% of it probably just pass on by, because that's just burping and slurping and whatever from other folks that for whatever reason they're not doing their work, they're not doing their homework, and they're not interested. There's no helping that. There's only codependently trying to drag it to the river and, cleanse it, or push the, horse's water in to drink. And, that's all manipulation. People want to know the truth about themselves. They'll know the truth about themselves. They'll find it. Whether I say anything, you say anything, or they, finally get the thunk from spirit. We have a great, work we can do to help walk people home. However, I'm not dragging people home, and I'm not going to the ghetto and calling that home. So careful how we're walking people home. What is my mission on the earth? Why am I here? What am I doing? And how can I serve? And those are the questions that I ask of divinity and my team. I don't ask the human faces out here because it gets too unclean in a second, especially now when we've gone through energy updates from 11/11. Lionsgate on has been just, buckle up, baby, because it's not going to stop. And this isn't going to just slow down. I don't know what anybody thinks, this runaway train, it's going to just wear itself out one day. Well, it kind of will, but there's going to be a whole lot of, explosive, busy stuff probably that happens before then. We're seeing it every day. Mother Nature is having to exert and squirt her energy somewhere. The stored up, imbalances of where Mother Nature has been abused has to be balanced somewhere. And she's not to be cussed and cursed because there are tornadoes tornadoes, or there are hurricanes, or there are snowstorms, or there's, lava coming out of mountains and stuff, she has to be able to regulate her own energy. And the way that she has to do that, because we're constantly bombarding her, is seeming like it's punishment to us. And, end times, and it is the end of that old paradigm. That is the end time. It's the end of that. That was a while ago. Y'all didn't get that message, and you're not playing nice. So, I have to balance my energy in some other way. And it's simply because people are frightened. They're frightened of what they see, and they either don't want to admit it, or they don't want to believe that, their part matters. And every single person's part matters. My action here in that quantum entanglement understanding is going to affect someone else's energy over there. My little particles over here resonate with particles 3,000 miles away or 3 million miles away, in outer space or on Earth or wherever, because that's quantum understanding. And it's also energy. That energy is neither created nor destroyed. Then that same frequency of whatever I'm doing will resonate and ping with other energy that's in that same vibrational field. And right now, the lowest vibrational field, that shit's dying. It's going out. It's, I'd hop up out of that unless you just don't like, living in anything except grunge, dirt, grime, and, slime. And, I don't know why someone would want to stay there, other than they think they don't know anything different. Or they fear that what would be different would cost too much, that they won't have to do it. And yes, you'd have to give up your crack addiction, or, stop being a hoe, or whatever it is, or a liar, or cheater, or whatever. Yes, we do have to sacrifice that. However, are you really truly, happy doing those things? And when I see people, and I'm looking around the news and thinking, yeah, these are people that are telling me they're happy. They don't look very happy. They don't look very satisfied. If you're trying to overtake someone, push them around, and bully them, I'm going to go way out there and say you're unhappy somewhere. Otherwise, you wouldn't feel the need to be bullying, pushing around, and manipulating anybody else. If you were truly happy, you wouldn't care what anybody else was doing to make themselves happy, as long as it's not on the back of somebody else. Generally speaking, I could care less what people do to make themselves happy. It's when they're out there manipulating, bullying, pushing, lying, and trying to, control the narrative. That's a problem, because it's that got us here and got us to an alien planet that is telling us, yo, I'm done with that. We're not doing that anymore. You're not going to abuse me anymore. I'm done. So I think that should be it for now. 21. Thank you so much. I'm so glad. Today is the opening of Avatar. I've got my ticket and I'm getting ready to leave in a little while. The Way of Water, I'm sure that's going to be very applicable and quite profound for me. So I'm looking forward to seeing that, and looking forward to learning more about myself and how I can regulate my own energy when I wig out, freak out, and go, what is this? What is this craziness that's happening? It feels so strange, and it does. Every time we get an upgrade, and we update our device, there are glitches in the device, or there are changes in the device, right? When I look at my iPhone and it's had an update overnight, and I go, oh, the messaging looks different, or the whatever. Those are small representations, but when they're in my energy, sometimes they can feel a little bit like that's very uncomfortable. I want to take that off. It's like wearing a shirt that doesn't fit, or mismatched socks and just feels weird, or whatever. We don't have a choice about it, though. And the way that we handle those uncomfortable feelings is really what's most important, because we're going to have them, and we're going to continue to have them until this reaches whatever apex it's going to. I'm not given the overall plan of what this looks like, in 5 years, 50 years, 500 years. I'm not given that. I'm given that this is the day-to-day operation, Kate. We're not there in the global picture, other than the global picture is that this planet is upgrading. That you do know, and that you could tell people that don't already know, that want to know, 2244, that the overall picture is changing, period, and the vibration of the planet is rising. It is rising exponentially, and there will be discomfort and anger as a result of that discomfort, a great deal, and grief as we lose all of that stuff that's no longer relevant. We have to say goodbye. The dinosaurs that stayed behind when the other ones went out, okay, well, so sorry, T-Rex, that was a shame, or whatever. Whenever we've gone through an evolutionary process, it's sad to say goodbye to whatever it was that had to say goodbye for whatever reason it said goodbye. It doesn't mean it was bad. It means that it didn't go through that evolutionary process. Then it didn't find its Darwin way to, deal with the energy updates and the energy upgrades, and it has to move along in its energy. That's not a punishment necessarily. It's a matter of, do you throw your flip phone against the wall and go, stupid effing phone, or do you just celebrate the fact that, hey, I got the next device and I'm, no longer relegated to using Morse code, or, excuse me, clapping coconuts or something. We have something that's a little more expedient. Those things might be relevant once in a while. However, the predominant understanding is that technology has grown past that, and it's faster, quicker, and more adaptive to go with that flow than it is to try to, yank it back into something that's just not as effective. So there's that. 24, 13, 14. Yeah, time to go. Watch The Way of Water, and I hope that you enjoy yourself at whatever point of the day you're in. I hope you enjoy yourself and get within, because you're divine, baby. You're absolutely fine. It's absolutely fine. Get within your skin, within, and be fine, because you're divine. It is fine. Take care of yourselves, and I'll see you again next time. Bye-bye, friends.